Hey guys, it's Crystal from livingwithgastroparesis.com, and it's time for another FAQ Friday. So today I want to talk about something that affects every single one of us with gastroparesis. It's something that I've been dealing with for the last 7 years, and it came up this week in my 12-week group program. And that's how we can help our family and friends understand gastroparesis. And so sometimes I'll get emails from people and it'll say, how do I make my family understand this? Well, the first thing we have to realize is that we cannot make anybody do anything, but we can help them. So in today's video, I am going to give you 5 tips for helping your family and friends better understand gastroparesis and understand what you're going through. So the first tip is to educate them. Now that sounds simple and it sounds obvious, but it's something a lot of us don't necessarily do. We're so entrenched in having gastroparesis, and it's such a part of our everyday lives that we think that the people around us just understand it. And I'll give you guys an example. I met my now husband a year before I was diagnosed with gastroparesis. So his parents have been around the entire time that I've had gastroparesis. And after I had the stimulator implanted, I was talking with my mother-in-law. And I was telling her that the stimulator didn't really address the gastric emptying, but it really alleviated the nausea. And she looked at me and she said, "But you don't have a lot of nausea, do you?" And I was kind of dumbfounded for a minute because nausea has been my worst symptom from the get-go. I mean, that's why I got the stimulator in the first place. And so, at first I was kind of like, what? Yeah, I have a lot of nausea. And then I realized, how would she know that? I never told her that. She, of course, knew that I had gastroparesis, and, I would say I don't feel well, but I never really explained to her what that meant. And we can't expect people to understand something that they know nothing about. I mean, think about it. Before you were diagnosed with gastroparesis, you'd probably never even heard of it. Most of the people around us have never heard of it either. They don't know what it is. So it's up to us to educate them, to explain it to them in a way that they can understand. And so that starts with using simple terms. We don't want to necessarily use words like a motility disorder. A lot of people won't know what that means. We want to use simple words, and we want to relate it to something that they can understand. So we want to say, I have a digestive condition. It's called gastroparesis. Basically, that means the stomach doesn't empty food as quickly as it should. And the symptoms are kind of like having a stomach flu all the time. Most people will get that. Most people have had a stomach flu. They understand the nausea, the vomiting, the fatigue, the just really like feeling yucky. They can get that. They can relate to that. And so we want to explain it in a way that they can relate to. The second thing is to set the example, okay? We want to set the example of how we want our friends and family to approach the condition. So a lot of people will say to me, well, I don't really want to talk about it with my friends and family because I don't want them to feel sorry for me, or I don't want them to treat me like the sick person. We set that example, okay, by how we talk about it, by how we approach it, by how we handle it. So if when you're explaining this, when you're educating them, if you use words like suffering, if you say, I'm suffering from gastroparesis, well, people are probably going to feel sorry for you. I mean, we feel sorry for people who suffer, right? But if instead we say, I've been diagnosed with gastroparesis, I'm living with gastroparesis, I'm managing gastroparesis, that's different. And to not be seen as, the sick person, really the way we do that is we talk about things other than the illness. So you want to educate, you want to explain, but you don't want that to be all that you talk about. You don't want that to be all that you focus on. And so that will then help people to realize that you're still you just now you have this extra challenge that you're dealing with. And lastly, in terms of setting the example, you want to show the same kind of empathy and understanding and patience that you are expecting from your friends and family. Because, you know, our loved ones, the people around us, this condition affects them too. And I think sometimes we don't acknowledge that as much as we should. And so you want to tell the people who are closest to you, I know that this condition is not just affecting me, I know it's affecting you. You want to let them know that it's okay to talk about that with you. You want to let them know that you're willing to, you know, brainstorm some solutions. So maybe your spouse has had to pick up some of the duties that you used to do around the house. You know, maybe they have started cooking because, you know, cooking just makes you feel sick, or you just don't like to do it because you can't eat what you cook. So let them know that you appreciate that you understand that, you know, they've had to pick up some extra responsibility, and that you're open to discussing, you know, things that you can do now that maybe you can take over from them. So show them the same understanding, and let them know that you appreciate their help, that you appreciate their patience with you, and show them the same understanding that you want them to show you. The third thing is to really explain your new limitations and your new priorities so that people understand your actions and they understand what they're seeing from you that might be different than what they saw from you before, okay? So you want to explain, first of all, that you have good days and you have bad days. And that in all likelihood, they mostly see you on your good days, right? Especially your friends, especially in social situations. The days where they see you are probably the days where you're feeling pretty good. You know, you're feeling good enough to go out and do things socially. And they don't necessarily see you on your bad days. So you want them to understand that you have good days and bad days, and that sometimes those days are unpredictable. So it can be hard for you to make plans. And that will help when you need to cancel plans. You know, you let them know up front. When you get an invitation to something, somebody invites you to lunch next week, you know, let them know, I would love to go to lunch with you. I'm looking forward to this. But if I wake up and it's a bad day, I might have to cancel. Would that be okay? You know, you let them know that you have these limitations and that you respect your limitations, and that if you're really not feeling well, if you really need to focus on self-care that day, you may need to cancel your plans. And so that leads me to priorities. You want to also let them know that you have different priorities now. In order to properly manage the gastroparesis, in order to feel as good as you can, in order to be as healthy as you can, your new priority is self-care. And that might mean you have less time, you might have less money for other things that you used to do before. And by letting them know that, you know, there won't be as many surprises. So I'll give you guys another example. I walk 6 miles a day to help manage my symptoms. It's just something that I found if I do it consistently every day, it really helps me feel better. And if I'm making plans with people and they want to meet at 6, but I won't be done with my walk by then, you know, I say, can we meet at 7 instead? I need to, you know, do my walk. And my friends and my family, they all know. They get it. It's fine, because I've explained it to them. I've let them know that these are my priorities. And by explaining that to people, you know, people aren't going to take offense, and there's going to be a lot more kind of understanding on both sides of the street. So the fourth thing is to be proactive, okay? So tell people how they can help you, right? If your spouse can do something around the house that would help you better manage your gastroparesis, don't just wait for them to figure that out on their own. Tell them. If having your spouse cook dinner would be really helpful for you, say, you know, it's really difficult for me to cook dinner since I can't eat it, and it would be really great if you could, you know, prepare dinner. And in terms of your social activities, be proactive about that too. So don't wait to hear what you're going to be doing. Suggest things that don't revolve around food. Suggest places, if you're going to go eat, that you know you can get something that's gastroparesis friendly, okay? So be proactive in making sure that you can participate as fully as possible when you're doing things with your friends. And that also includes, you know, sharing information with people. So We talked about educating people. If somebody seems really interested and they want to know more, be proactive. Tell them, would you like me to give you some resources where you can learn more? Here's a link to my blog. My mother-in-law didn't even know that I had a blog, and she stumbled upon it one day, and she sent me an email, and she said, I didn't know you had a blog. I just read the whole thing. I learned so much. I should have let my family know, if you're interested in what I'm going through, I'm writing a blog, here's the link. Be proactive about sharing that information and helping people understand. And if you have close family members, your spouse, your parents, or if you have grown children, offer to let them come with you to doctor's appointments. That's a really good way for them to start to understand the condition, and they can ask questions because they have questions too, right? We want to be empathetic to the fact that we're not the only ones with questions. There are things that they don't understand. So we can ask them, do you want to come along to my doctor's appointment? And that helps them build their understanding. And lastly, number 5, it doesn't matter what you do. Some people will never get it, and so you have to accept that, right? Last week we talked about acceptance. Acceptance in terms of, gastroparesis itself. Acceptance in terms of saying, right now, in this moment, I have gastroparesis. Well, sometimes we have to say, I accept the fact that, Aunt Sarah doesn't understand gastroparesis. Again, acceptance doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you agree with it. It doesn't mean it's right, but you just have to accept that no matter what you do, some people will never understand, okay? And so once you can just accept that, you can stop trying to make them understand. It takes a lot of energy to try to force somebody to understand something that they don't want to understand. So if you've tried everything else, if you've tried, the other 4 things we talked about, and they still don't get it, just accept the fact that some people aren't going to get it. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully these tips will help you help your family and friends. And if you liked the video, please click the like button. Please share it with others. This is something, like I said, that all of us with gastroparesis deal with. So I hope it was helpful. Come over to my Facebook page at facebook.com/livingwithgastroparesis. We can keep the conversation going there. And I will see you next week for another FAQ Friday.